The beginning of the story shows an Interpol agent who is being held hostage by an Italian mafia group. Here the mafia wanted the agent to tell them the whereabouts of his colleague who had dared to deceive them. But the agent still doesn't want to tell them. Upset by this, the mafia boss named Silvio, without hesitation, benefited the agent's fingers while saying that he would continue to torture him. Feeling that he couldn't take it anymore, the agent finally explained that his partner was now in the city of Barapuglia. Upon learning this, Silvio, the leader of the mafia, immediately killed the agent. 1 month later, the scene moves to a one-child widow named Karina, who was working overtime at a vegetable shop. It is known that Karina is a former addict who has managed to escape her addiction. Not long after that, Karina was contacted by one of her friends, who was also a former addict. Here, her friend said that she was being collected by a dealer for her debts in the past. Hearing this, Karina asked her friend to wait a minute, because Karina would be there soon. Without hesitation, Karina left her overtime work, then rushed to the location. Upon arrival, Karina's friend was very scared. But Karina tries to calm her down. Then a hustler appeared, demanding payment for Karina's friend's past debts. The hustler also said that the interest on the debt had started to increase. With all her efforts, Karina tried to help her friend. But because they didn't have enough money, Karina was no choice to give her mother's ring to the dealer. In the end, the dealer was willing to let Karina's friend go, which made her friend very grateful for Karina's help. Then, Karina excused herself to go back to the vegetable shop and finish her overtime work. In short, when Karina returned to the vegetable shop, she quickly finished her work, that is cutting and packing vegetables. But not long after that, Karina was contacted by her daughter, who was going on vacation to Karina's house. It is known that this daughter lives with Karina's ex-husband, and now she wants to see her mother. Then her daughter said that she would arrive at the airport around 5 a.m., and she hoped that Karina would not be late to pick her up. Karina immediately promised that she would be at the airport before 5 a.m. A few hours after that, when Karina was taking out the trash, she accidentally saw a robber who was shooting. Quickly, Karina, who didn't want to interfere, got into the car and left the place. The robber didn't want to leave the witness. He took the suitcase he had robbed and rushed after Karina. During the chase, there was an accident with both cars. The robber's car rolled over, but unfortunately, the robber could survive and then approached Karina's car. After the incident, the robber got into Karina's car and told Karina to leave the place quickly. Meanwhile, the suitcase that he had previously stolen was now engulfed in flames. While on the way, the robber known as Kovac asked Karina to take him to a pharmacy because Kovac had a severe stomach injury. Karina, who was at gunpoint at the time, could do nothing but obey Kovac's command. When they arrived in front of the pharmacy, Kovac told Karina to buy the medicines he needed. Before that, Kovac also gave a communication device so that the two of them could stay connected. When Karina was inside the pharmacy, she immediately bought the medicines requested by Kovac through the communication device. Meanwhile, Kovac continued to point a gun at Karina so that Karina didn't dare to do anything he didn't want. At one point, the pharmacy guard realized that Karina was in danger, but at the same time, the robber suddenly shot at the pharmacy. Then, Kovac told Karina to hurry back with the medicine before Kovac changed his mind and killed Karina and the pharmacy guard. After returning to the car, Karina asked where they were going. Kovac replied that they were going to Karina's house to treat his stomach wound. Karina replied that she didn't have a house but was renting somewhere. Kovac asked Karina to take him there. Upon arriving in front of Karina's rented house, Kovac said that Karina should never try to run away because Kovac would definitely continue to hunt Karina. Once inside the rented house, Kovac asked Karina to help Kovac treat the wound on his stomach. But not long after that, Karina's room door was knocked on by the landlord, who was disturbed by Kovac's voice. In addition, there were bloodstains on the door. Karina, who didn't want to put the landlord in danger, said that everything was fine. After that, Kovac asked Karina for clothes. Unfortunately, Karina has some of her ex-husband's clothes. Then Kovac told Karina to turn towards the door, while he changed his clothes. After Karina was allowed to turn around again, it turned out that Kovac was an Interpol agent. So why did Kovac do all that? Kovac then gets a call from someone, who turns out to be Silvio, the Italian ruling mafia boss. Here, Silvio asked if Kovac had gotten the item he wanted. Kovac replied that he had a little problem, so Kovac asked Silvio for more time. Meanwhile, Karina overheard their conversation through the communication device, so Karina concluded that Kovac was a corrupt Interpol working for the mafia. In short, Kovac invites Karina to go somewhere. Here Karina ventured to ask whether Kovac was a corrupt Interpol. Kovac finally explained that in the past he and his partner had gone undercover to join the group of Silvio, the mafia boss. But unfortunately, Kovac and his partner's disguise was discovered. As a result, Kovac's partner must be eliminated in the early scenes of the story. As for Kovac, he had fled out of town until Kovac had one reason that made Kovac finally return to Silvio's group. After that, Kovac also explained that Silvio asked him to rob illegal drugs belonging to his business rivals. Kovac actually could rob some of the illegal stuff, but unfortunately, the drugs caught fire while chasing Karina earlier. Shortly thereafter, Kovac and Karina stopped at a place. It turned out that Kovac was planning to trap the dealers so that Kovac could return to rob illegal stuff again. Then Kovac gave Karina money and told her to meet two dealers by pretending to want to buy illegal stuff in large quantities. When Karina met them, she told them that she wanted to buy illegal stuff in large quantities, and she had prepared a suitcase of money in her car. Karina also took out the money that Kovac had given her so that they would believe her and take her to their warehouse. But the two dealers suddenly took Karina hostage and asked her to give them all the money. Now, casually, Karina replied that the one who wanted the stuff was not her, but her friend who was in the car. Then Karina explained that her friend wouldn't hesitate to kill them if they dared to change. Feeling cornered, the two dealers finally gave up and were ready to take Karina to the building owned by their boss. The two dealers then told Karina to wait in the car, because soon the courier would take Karina to the warehouse. When Karina returned to the car, Karina asked Kovac to let her go, because now she had to pick up her daughter at the airport. However, Kovac didn't care at all. Not long after that, a courier appeared, and it was the courier who would take them to the warehouse. When Karina and Kovac were following the courier, suddenly they both lost track of the courier. It was at that moment that Karina saw the clock indicating that her daughter must have landed at the airport. Karina secretly distracted Kovac, until at one point, Karina could escape. Kovac was seen feeling very upset after Karina ran away from him. But Kovac accidentally found Karina's cell phone left in the car. Here, Kovac finally planned to kidnap Karina's daughter in the airport, because after all, Karina already knows too much about Kovac. Long story short, Kovac used a car. He arrived at the airport first. It was seen that Karina's daughter with one policeman, while waiting for her mother to arrive. Here, Kovac took out a badge to show that Kovac was Interpol. But at the same time, Karina's daughter, who realized something was wrong, immediately tried to escape. There was a chase, until making Kovac and one policeman pointing guns at each other. Then Kovac said that if the policeman dared to shoot, then certainly this child would also die. In the end, the policeman gave up, and Kovac immediately took Karina's daughter away. On the way, Karina's daughter, known as Lucy, asked why Kovac kidnapped her. Lucy explained that if Kovac wanted money, then Kovac had kidnapped the wrong person, because her mother never had a lot of money. The scene moves to Karina, who is stopping a patrolling police car. Here Karina explains that her daughter is at the airport, and she asks the policeman to take her to see a frightened Karina. The policeman tried to calm Karina down and told her to get into the car, until at the same time, Kovac came up to them. Karina immediately asked the two policemen to arrest Kovac, because Kovac was a bad person. But Kovac immediately pulled out his badge, which made the police believe that Kovac was an Interpol agent. Not long after that, Karina finally realized that her daughter was already in Kovac's car. That's when Kovac pointed a gun at one policeman and asked them both to surrender, so that there were no victims. Kovac also did not forget to ask them to hand over the gun. In the end, the two policemen complied with Kovac's command. Meanwhile, Karina was asked to immediately move the car. When she had moved the car, Karina begged Kovac to open the handcuffs on her daughter's hands. And fortunately, Kovac didn't question this. On the way, Kovac was contacted by Silvio, the mafia boss, who asked if Kovac's work was finished. Kovac, who was confused about what to answer, asked where Silvio was now, because there's something he has to talk about. In short, they arrived at Silvio's residence then. Kovac immediately went inside. However, not long after that, Silvio's men suddenly came to take Lucy. Karina suddenly screamed, but Karina couldn't do much, especially since her hands were handcuffed to the steering wheel. Scene then moved into the room, where it turned out that Kovac was asking Silvio to give him a little more time. Silvio replied that he was a wise mafia boss, so Silvio would give him another hour to rob the 5 kilos of illegal drugs. But if Kovac misses again, then Kovac will know the consequences. After that, Kovac returned to the car, and Karina immediately asked where her daughter was. Kovac explained that Silvio only gave him 1 hour to rob illegal stuff again. If Kovac is late, then Lucy will also be killed. Hearing this, Karina was naturally angry because Kovac had involved her daughter in this situation. Here, finally told that it turns out that the reason Kovac wants to obey all Silvio's orders is because Kovac's biological child has also been taken hostage by Silvio. This means that Kovac's child and Karina's child are both in danger, so they both inevitably have to work together. Then Karina remembered something. But before that, Karina asked Kovac to open the handcuffs and give her cell phone. It turns out that Karina contacted a dealer who had once taken Karina's ring, and Karina pretended to want to buy drugs from the dealer. Long story short, Karina met with the dealer. But at the same time, Kovac appeared from behind, pointing a gun. Without further ado, Kovac said that he wanted a large amount of drugs. The dealer replied that he and his group were out of stock. But Kovac didn't want to believe him. In the end, the dealer is forced to take Kovac and Karina to the dealer's headquarters. The scene moves to Silvio, the mafia boss, who looks relaxed while monitoring Karina and Kovac's children. Here he says that your life is only at stake for 1 hour. If your parents don't succeed with the stuff he wants, then you all will certainly be killed. At the same time, Kovac and Karina arrived at the dealer's headquarters. Until when the dealer got inside, he was suddenly killed by one of his members. Then there was a shootout between the dealer's group and Karina and Kovac. After taking down the dealer's group, Karina and Kovac accidentally saw a woman who wasn't to run away with a large bag. Then there was a chase between them. At one point, Karina and Kovac were able to corner the woman. Here, Karina tried to calm the woman down by saying that they wouldn't hurt her as long as she gave them the bag. After several attempts, the woman finally gave up and then gave the bag to them. Then she hurried away. In short order, Karina and Kovac returned to the car to continue their journey. Here Kovac also checked the bag, which turned out to be not the stuff he wanted. Kovac then says that their time is running out, and it's impossible to go back to find the items Silvio wants. Therefore, the only way to save their children was to fight the mafia. Moments after that, Kovac contacted Silvio saying that he had gotten the item. Until Silvio told Kovac to come to a warehouse. Silvio also apparently asked Kovac to finish off Karina. Long story short, Kovac arrived at the warehouse where Silvio was holding their child hostage. When he got out of the car, Kovac told Silvio's men if the stuff were in the trunk, including Karina's body. Until when Silvio's men checked the trunk, Karina suddenly shot the person, while Kovac could knock out one other mafia, and a fight ensued. In the middle of the shootout, Kovac said that Karina shouldn't be afraid because in this warehouse there are only a few Silvio's men. After taking down Silvio's men, Karina and Kovac immediately searched for Silvio's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Silvio was seen trying to escape while holding Karina and Kovac's children hostage. At one point, there was a shootout between them. Here Karina had asked Silvio to release her children, and Silvio could escape safely. But Silvio replied that his other men would be here soon. When Silvio had put the hostages in the car, Kovac tried to chase, but unfortunately Kovac was shot by Silvio. Then Silvio, who felt that he could defeat Karina, Silvio also tried to target Karina. Meanwhile, the gun held by Karina was out of bullets. However, on one occasion, Karina managed to injure Silvio, then rushed to the car. Seen at the same time, the police arrived until a shootout with Silvio occurred. When Silvio had the opportunity to finish off Karina, Silvio was suddenly shot. It was shot from Kovac. In the end, Kovac, Karina, and their children survived the incident. The next day, it shows Karina taking her daughter to the motel while carrying a bag given by Kovac. When Karina checks the bag, it turns out to contain a lot of money. 1 year later, it shows Karina, who is now successful and has opened a luxury restaurant on the Italian coast. Of course, all this is because of the money that Kovac used to give to Karina. And after that, the movie ended.